Hello and welcome. Now we are going to create a basic Ruby on Rails application where we are going to have a list of products and we are going to be able to pay for these products via Stripe. So here is how it is going to work. We have a list of products, a Samsung phone, an iPhone, and Nokia brick. Each of them has a different price. Let's say I will try to buy the Nokia brick. I press the buy button and you see it redirects us to Stripe checkout. And in the Stripe checkout, I have the store name, the name of the product, the price. I can add my email, my card information, the validity of the card, the CVC code, my name, and the payment will be processed. Now, Stripe is going to process the payment, take the money out of the card of the person who is paying, validate if you can actually do it, and transfer the money to your Stripe account. And you see I have a success message. So we have received your payment. And if I go back to products, you see the sales count has increased by 1. So we have sold yet another Nokia brick phone and the money was transferred to the Stripe account. And that is what we are going to do now. Now, here's a disclaimer. There are a lot of courses, a lot of tutorials, a lot of posts teaching you to add such a pay with card button with Stripe, and it would open such a window. And this is a legacy, this is an outdated way to process Stripe payments. So you see in test mode, if you open this pay with card button, it will say update available, and you can update to Stripe checkout. And it will give you a guide to this Stripe checkout update. Now we're going to implement the Stripe checkout directly. And we're going to start from zero and build our application step by step, feature by feature. So we're going to create a new Ruby on Rails application. Let's type Rails new. I will name it Shoplify, something like Shopify, but Shoplify. And database equals PostgreSQL. I'm creating the application, and in the meantime, I will create a Git repository for it. I'll go to GitHub, to my account, create new repository. Let's name it Shoplify. Okay, create repository. And in the meantime, the application is being launched in our development environment. So as you see here, I'm using the Cloud9 web development IDE in the cloud. So you see everything is in the browser, and okay, it was installed. I can navigate to the Ruby on Rails application, cd Shoplify. I will type Rails db create. Next, Rails db migrate. And Rails server to run the application. I will press preview running application. I get this blocked host message. It is a Cloud9 specific error. So I will copy this line and add it inside the application in config, environments, development RB. On the very top, save, exit, restart the server. And here we go. We have a blank Ruby on Rails application running. So I will save the changes, git add all, git commit main, initialize app, and we're going to push to GitHub. Now I'm going to copy these commands and push to GitHub. Okay, I will refresh the GitHub repository. And here we have pushed our initial application to GitHub. Looks fine. Okay, now what are we going to do? We're going to actually create our products. So what are we going to have in products? We're going to have a name and a price for the beginning. So let's type Rails generate scaffold. It's going to be named, so the table is going to be named products. So product, we're going to have a name and the price. Now, the price should be kept in integer, not as a float, not as a decimal, but as an integer. That is, I guess, the default way for Stripe. And basically, if you keep the price in an integer, then you are not going to have rounding problems in the future. So, for example, $100 is 10,000 cents. So 100 and 2 more zeros it's the actual price in cents of a product. So we're going to have a product with a name and a price. And the price is going to be integer. Now, usually when we run scaffolds, we have a lot of different mass generated that we are not going to use in the future. So I'm going to add some additional lines here, like no helper, no assets, no specs, and no JBuilder. Let's run the command and see if it works. Okay, so we have created a migration, the model, added resources products to our roots. We've created a controller and the views, nothing extra. Now let's type Rails db migrate and run Rails server. Okay, and I can navigate to /products. And here we have our list of products. There aren't any yet. I can create a product with a price. So looks fine. Let's save our changes. I will type git status, git add all, git commit main, scaffold, products. Okay, and now let's add some basic validations to our products. I will go to our app, models, product.rb, and here I'm going to say validates, name and price, presence, true. Okay, I will in the meantime also start the server and see if this validation works. So I will go to new product, try to create a product without a name and price, and I get these 2 errors. So looks fine. I'll try to input a name, and I also have to have the price present. Looks fine. And I'm going to write one more method here. It will be def to s end. And here we're going to have the name. Now, what does this do? For example, in our view, let's go to products, index. Here we call the product without the name. We call just the product. What will it give us? It gives us the product name. But if we don't have this def to s name, we're just going to get the product object. So that we don't have to define the product name here, we can just call the product. We're going to say def to s name. Looks fine. Okay, now we're also going to add a basic navigation. So no matter what page we go to, we're going to have a link to go to our products. And we're also going to add the products as our root path, so that we'll not have this you're on Rails screen. We'll go to config. Here we're going to look for roots. And here we're going to add root products index. Okay, now as the main page, we're going to have the list of products. And we will also go to layouts, application HTML, and here we're going to add above yield equals link to products path, like this. And we're going to have a divider here. So no matter what page we are on, we're going to have a link to our products. Looks fine. Okay, so we've added our products to our navigation. I can go to new product, and always we will have this link to our products. And let's save our changes. Now, what have we done? Again, what have we done? We've added the product model validations. We've added a basic navbar to our application HTML file. In our products index, we've played around with displaying just the product or the product.name. And in roots, we have added the products index as the main page of our application. So let's type git add all, git commit main, product, basic validations. Okay, so what we are going to do now is actually finally start integrating Stripe into our application. And for this, we're going to find the gem Stripe. Let's go to GitHub gem Stripe. And here we find stripe/stripe Ruby. We're going to install the stripe gem and see how it works. So I'm taking the gem stripe and adding to our gem file. Now I will run bundle. And let's see what is next. Okay, so we need to get a Stripe API key. How do we do this? Now here, as you see, I will go here. I am registered on the Stripe website. I have an account here. Yeah, and inside I have created a store. So you can also create a store. Now I have a regular store and a test store. You can go to create a new account and create a test store. So I have just created this test account, and I'm going to go to developers. And in developers, I have API keys. So here I have a publishable key and a secret key. Now, what do we need according to this gem readme? We need the secret key, skTest, and so on. And we're going to keep our Stripe API keys somewhere in our application. So for this, we will create an initializer. I will go to config/initializers, and here I will create stripe.rb, like this. And here I will add Stripe API key. And I'm going to add my API key. Let's go here, and I will reveal the secret test key. I will copy it and paste it right here. Okay, let's see if this works. I don't need to actually start the server. I will start the console, Rails console. I can try calling a Stripe method like Stripe customer list. And I am somehow connected, but I don't have any Stripe customers. Let's see, I will go to customers, and there aren't any customers. What can I do? I can try to create a Stripe customer. I will go to Stripe customer.create, and let's say email will be hello@corsigo.com. I will go to my Stripe dashboard, refresh. And here I have created a Stripe customer. So I am basically connected to Stripe. But again, it is a bad approach to just keep your API keys not being encrypted. So we are going to encrypt our API keys. How are we going to do it? For this, we are going to use Ruby on Rails credentials. Now, again, in config, you see we have this credentials file and a master key. So credentials file is where we are going to keep our secrets, and the master key is a secret key that you shouldn't show anybody and that you should keep a local copy of, that is used to decrypt the credentials. So now we are going to put this API key into our credentials folder file. I'm going to type editor vim rails credentials edit. And here I will say Stripe, and I will say the secret key. So secret will be, now where is the dashboard? Where's my Stripe dashboard? I'm going to developer, API keys, reveal secret key, and I'm going to take the secret key and paste it right here. And I can also actually do the same with the public key. I will go to public, and I will copy this key. Okay, now I exit, escape, then look attentively at this sign, WQ, enter, and file encrypted and saved. So let's see if it actually worked. I will go to run Rails console, and I'm going to type something like Rails dot, let me see. I guess Rails dot application dot credentials, and inside credentials I will get Stripe and secret. Yeah, it works. So you see, I went to this path and I get the Stripe secret key. I will go to a similar path, but for the public key. And here is the public key. So this is how we are going to retrieve these keys and keep them secret from everybody. Here, I can just type Stripe API key equals Rails application credentials Stripe secret. Looks good. Okay, exit, and I will try to start the Rails server. Rails server started, and again, this time I have encrypted our secret key. I can go to the console and again try to, let's say, retrieve the Stripe customers. I will say Stripe customer.list. And here we have our one and only Stripe customer with the email hello@cosigo.com. Okay, so we have basically installed the Stripe gem and we can make calls to and from Stripe. Let's see git status, what changes we made. We added the Stripe gem, we added the Stripe RB initializer, we added the Stripe secret key to the Stripe initializer, and now we can make calls to and from Stripe from our Rails application. Now, in our Stripe dashboard, we created a new account, we went to view test data, we went to the developer tab, API keys, and here we have a publishable key and the secret key. So let's save our changes, git add all, git commit main, install gem Stripe. Okay, now say git push. And what are we going to do next? Next, we're going to implement the Stripe checkout. So there's going to be a basic button that we can press and go to this checkout page and buy a product. So let's say git status. The work tree is clean. I will close the files that we are not using for now. And I'm going to create a new controller. I will go to app, controllers, and here I will create a new file, checkout controller.rb. Here I will say class checkout controller that inherits from application controller. I can just copy this from somewhere else. I'll go to products controller and copy this application controller. Okay. And then we will have an end, and I'm going to add a method. It's going to be def create. It's going to have an end, of course. And here we're going to have the logic to open the Stripe checkout. But first we will go to our config and add a root for the create action in the checkouts controller. So I will go to roots. I will say resources checkout only create. This should work. Okay, so we've added our roots, and now let's go to our checkout controller. And in this create action, what are we going to have? Now, if we go to this legacy Stripe pay button, here I have this learn how to upgrade, and I wrote this Stripe.com payments checkout migration. And here I can see this session equals Stripe checkout session create. I'm just going to copy this, add it inside, and I'm going to slightly change it. So I will say add session equals Stripe checkout session create. Then I'm going to have the payment method types. It's going to be card. We're going to have our line items. So we're going to have like this. Name is going to be the product dot name. Then we'll have the amount or unit amount, and it's going to be the product dot price. Then the currency is going to be, let's say, USD, currency USD, and quantity will be 1. Okay, I guess that is it. Yeah, so we're going to get the name of the product from our database, the amount of the product from our database, and we're going to get the currency and the quantity. And how are we going to get this product? So we're going to get it from the params. Basically, we will go to our views, index, and here they're going to add a button to pay for the product. So here there will be a pay button. Let's add this button. Let's add a column. We will say payment, and we're going to have a link here or a button. Now it is going to be a button. So button 2 by now. Okay, it's going to be leading to the checkout create path. So to checkout controller, create action. And as it is a button 2, it will automatically have the method post. Now, if we had link 2, we would also have to define method post. But a button automatically has a method post. So we'll have button 2 by now, like this. And we're going to pass the product ID in the params for us to know which product we are talking about. So we will say params ID equals product dot ID. And we will say remote true. Here's our button. Let's see if the button works. I will start the server. Now, undefined local variable, checkout create path. Let's go to our roots. Checkout. Okay, we have just checkout index path. So I will change it a bit. I will go to roots, and in roots, I will say post checkout slash create to checkout create instead of this. Let's see if it works. We have checkout create path method post. So I will go back, and I have this buy now button. Now, what will happen if I go to buy now? Nothing will happen. Let's go to our logs. Buy now, and you see nothing happens. We go to checkout create, but we don't have anything really happening here. So let's work on this method. We are going to say that the product equals product dot find by the ID from the params. So in these params, we are passing the ID of the product from here. So product find params ID. Okay, we have a product. It leads us to this Stripe checkout session create. We have our line items. We say that we want to see the name of the product, the price of the product. It will be in dollars, and the quantity is 1. Then we're going to have a success URL and a cancel URL. So we can have both set, for example, to root path or root URL. Let's make it here and here, root URL, like this. Let's see if this works. I will refresh, press buy now, and no, it still does not work. Now, if we go to this checkout guide, it will give us some JavaScript that we would have to integrate. Now, there is a better way of integrating this JavaScript. Don't get overwhelmed. We're just going to say respond to do format. We'll say format.js and now it's going to be JS, not JSON. Okay, and we need to create a JS for our checkout create action. So I'm going to go to our views, and here I'm going to create a new folder. It will be called checkout. Inside we will have create.js.erb. And in this create.js.erb, I'm going to paste this code, but I'm going to edit it slightly. So first I will remove some things that we are not going to need. And how is it going to look? So we'll have var stripe, and here we're going to get, instead of this random API key, we're going to, okay, yeah, we're going to go to Rails equals Rails dot application dot credentials. Then we're going to have stripe, and here we need the publishable key. You see, it says the PK test, the public key. So we'll say stripe and public like this, and we need to close the braces, I guess. Okay, now we have, we're going to remove this. We're going to have stripe dot redirect to checkout. Then we're going to pass the session ID, and here we're going to pass equals at session dot ID. I guess that's fine. Okay, let's try. I'll refresh, I'll press buy now, and it still isn't working. Let's see why it isn't working. I will go to the console, and here you see that the checkout session's total amount must cover at least 200 grosh. So just the amount is too little. It's like 12 cents. That's kind of too little. Let's make it a bigger amount. Let's name it iPhone X. Let's make it $999 and press the buy now button. What happens? Nothing really happens. Okay, so I'm pressing this buy now button, but it is still not working. And here we get something else. Template error, undefined method stripe. Now let's see. Undefined method stripe. I'll go buy now once again. Stripe invalid request error. Okay, again, I press the one that has a bad total amount. I can actually destroy this product for now. I press buy now. And what are we getting? Buy now, we are getting nothing. So there might be a problem here. Okay, so after some search, I actually open the console. I press buy now, and I see that I have a syntax error. So I go here, I add closing these quotes, and I shouldn't have this error anymore. I press buy now, and I get stripe is not defined. Now to define stripe, I need to add this JavaScript to our application HTML. So I've added JS stripe com v3. Okay, now I will refresh, press the buy now button, and voila, we are redirected to the Stripe checkout. We see the store name, we see the product name, the product price. We can add some kind of test email and test card information. So I will go to testing. I will add some kind of random credit card, some kind of dates, a CVC code, a random name, and yes, and an email. And press pay. Now the payment is processing, and it says it was successful. So we have kind of paid for the product, but our application doesn't know it. And for this, we're going to use Stripe webhooks. Actually, we can go to the Stripe logs and see what has happened. So we see that there was a checkout session created, there was a payment method added, and there was this post request to payment pages. So if we go to our customers, we have a new customer, and we can see that he has just paid $999, and the payment was successful. And the next step is going to be for Stripe to tell our application in the right way that the payment was completed. Now, there can be different cases. For example, the money can be frozen on a user's bank account, and Stripe will take quite some time to attempt to receive the money from the user's credit card. And webhooks are basically a tool that is going to tell your application that something has happened outside of your application, and it can trigger some actions in the application. So now let's see how webhooks work. Basically, we're going to allow Stripe to tell our application that Stripe has successfully processed the payment and that the sale can be accounted for. So let's first save our changes. Let's say git status. What have we done? We have created the checkouts controller. Here it is. First, we added a buy now button in our products. So we redirect to the checkout create path and we pass in the product ID, and it is a remote button. Next, we went to our routes and added this button to our routes so that when a user presses checkout create button, it leads with a post request to checkout controller create action. In checkout controller create action, we find the product from the params and we create this session. And in the name of the product, in the Stripe checkout session, we have the product name, the amount will be the product price, dollars, quantity 1, and the success and cancel will both lead us to the root URL. And it responds to format.js. Now in format.js, we have the Stripe public key, and it basically initiates the creation of this Stripe session. And for it to also work, we added this JS Stripe in our application HTML. Okay, let's save our changes. Git add all, git commit m, Stripe, checkout, Stripe checkout, session. Okay, now let's start our server once again and try to create one more product. So let's say we'll have one more product. Let's name it Samsung S21. The price will be $1,500. And actually, to display the prices not in cents, but in actual dollars, let's make it look nicer. Let's go to our products, and here we'll have product price. We will say number to currency. Let's try product.price and divide by 100. Okay, so we see 100. It is $999. It is $1,500. And this is actually not just the price, but the price in cents. Okay, now we're going to add the quantity and integer to see how many times we sold each product. So let's run this migration. Let's say Rails generate migration, add sales count to products. And I will go to this migration. We have db migrate, and here I will say add column to products. It is going to be called sales count. It is going to be integer, null false, and default it will be 0. Okay, now type Rails db migrate, and I'm going to display the sales count in our index page. So I will say sales count, and here I will say product.sales count. So I will display how many times the product was sold. Rails server. And we see that each product has 0 sales now. Well, okay, that's what we're going to use the Stripe webhooks for. But before adding the Stripe webhooks, let's just save our changes. We will say git status, git add all, git commit main, add sales count to products, git push. Okay, And now we're going to add the webhooks. But before adding webhooks, again, we're going to push our application to Heroku. So I will type git remote v git. Oh, I will say now Heroku create. Okay, we have created a Heroku application. Now I will say Heroku rename. Yeah, I've got to add the name. Heroku rename, let's say Shopify. Okay, now I will add my master key to Heroku. Now, how can I do it? I have a link somewhere here. Okay, I will need to run this command. Basically, by running this command, I copy the master key into Heroku. And after this, I can already run git push Heroku master, and I will not get an error. So first, I need to run this command to copy my master key that decrypts the credentials to Heroku. Okay, now I'll type git push Heroku main. And it's going to take a few minutes to push the application to Heroku for the first time. So I'll pause the video and come back when we push to Heroku. Okay, so I have finally pushed to Heroku. Now I can run Heroku run rails db migrate. And in the meantime, I will open the Heroku app. You see, we get this error because we did not yet run the migrations. Let's just wait. And in the meantime, we can finally start implementing the webhooks. Now, it's not something really hard, and it's quite easy to do. So I'm going to create a new controller that will be named webhooks controller.rb. And I'm going to create a new root. I'll go to config. I will go to roots and say resources webhooks only create. Okay, and here we are going to have our webhooks. Let's see if we did the migrations. I will restart. I can create a product. Let's say iPhone X. The price will be $999. And I will have the Nokia brick. The price will be just, let's say, $69. I'll go back. I'll press the buy now button. Let's see if it works. You see, I'm brought to the Stripe checkout. I see the price of the iPhone X. I can go back and I'm redirected to the root path. I'll try to buy the Nokia brick phone. Here's the Nokia brick phone. I can put in an email address, a random credit card, the CVC number, and pay. So what just happened? I did this payment. I can go to the logs. I will go to developer, logs. What just happened? What's the time now? It is, let's see, it's 10:06. So at 10:05, I created a checkout session. I added a payment method, and I did a post that there was a successful payment. And we can also see it in our webhooks. Here we have our webhooks. We're going to add a new endpoint. So the endpoint is going to be our Heroku application. This application / webhooks. And I'm going to allow all events. I will add the endpoint. And let's see. I will once again go to the Heroku app and press buy now. I pressed buy now, and let's see the webhooks. I will refresh. And you see, in our webhook attempts, we have an event type called payment intent created. And it failed because it didn't manage to connect with our application. Now I will continue. I will add an email. I will add a credit card to process the payment. I will add some dates and so on. I'll process the payment. Let's see what happens. Okay, now we are redirected, and let's see the webhooks once more. So there was a payment intent created, a customer was created, the payment intent succeeded, the charge succeeded, and the checkout session was completed. So we have a successful payment now. And we can go and see this customer. Let's go to this newly created customer. Here he is. And we have a charge for $69 that just succeeded. And you see, nobody has to actually be logged in into your application. Okay, now we're going to add the webhooks. And in our webhooks controller, there's actually some standard code that we can just add. Here's a copy of the code. And let's go through it. The important part here is, so Stripe is going to send a post request via the webhooks. So it's going to send a post request to this URL. Each webhook is going to send a post request to this URL, and it will have an event named payment intent created, or charge succeeded, or checkout session completed, and so on. And each of them is going to send some JSON data. So here is, for example, the data that is been sent by checkout session completed. They are going to have the ID of the event. They're going to have the data object. They're going to have the amount that was billed, and so on. So what do we have here? This is just some basic code that we're going to leave alone and not touch. But here we have this Rails application credentials, and we're going to have the Stripe webhook. So we need to add our Stripe webhook to our credentials. Let's go to credentials and type editor vim Rails credentials, edit. Here I'm going to add the webhook. And where is the webhook key? Here is the sign-in secret. I'm going to reveal it. I'm going to copy it and add it here. Now I save the changes. Okay. So basically, Stripe is going to send a post request to your application. This is going to decode the request. And for example, a request can be named checkout session completed. Now here we have a few different requests that are sent, but the final one, when definitely everything went well, they're going to have checkout session completed. Okay, and we can do something automatically in our application when we have this checkout session completed arriving from Stripe. So in this case, we can have something like when checkout session completed, they're going to find the product that was just bought, and they're going to increment the sales count by 1. Now, this isn't the ideal way of finding the product based on the amount for which the product was bought. Now, again, how did we get this amount total? Here we have event, data object, amount total. Here we have event. So this is the full event. Then we have data object, and we find this amount total or subtotal. So we see the amount for which the product was bought, and we're just finding the product by the amount for which it is bought. It's the easiest thing we can do. But if we have two products for the same price, then it won't work. It's just an example. So we find the product by this price, and we increment the sales count by 1. Let's see if it will work. I will save the changes. I will run git add all, git commit main, add Stripe webhooks, and git push Heroku main. So I will now push the changes to Heroku and see if it works. What we want to do is when a payment is successful, the sales count will be increased by 1. Okay, so I have pushed to Heroku. Let's see if it works. I'll refresh. and I will try to buy an iPhone X. I press the Buy Now button. I'm redirected to Stripe checkout. I will add a credit card. I can actually add a 3D secure credit card that requires two-factor authentication. So I will add the email. I add this card, a month, a year, the name on the card, and I press pay. Now you see I have this two-factor authentication. So as it is a test environment, I will just press complete authentication. The payment is being processed, and we have success. And you see the sales count was increased by 1. How did this happen? How did this magic happen? Let's run Heroku logs tail. Now, what happened? Let's just go down a bit. And here we have, you see, we have all these incoming post requests going to the webhooks path. And on the specific request that says checkout session completed, we find the product that was sold for this price, and we increment the sales count by 1. So this is the most basic way of implementing Stripe checkout for multiple products in your Rails application. And you see we did it without actually creating any login functionality and without creating previously records in our Stripe dashboard. So we just have our prices and products in our Rails application. And whenever a product is bought, we have a webhook that tells our Rails application that the product was bought, and the sales count is incremented by 1. And that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, if you like this lesson, I'm going to go and explore more into this topic. So thank you.